All right, guys, welcome to Job 4. So far it looks like doing every other day is working really good for everybody. And actually, it's pretty good because it gives me, like tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Wednesday, I have blood work to do. So it gives me an opportunity to still get a video up without having to do a whole bunch of filming because I'm going to have to film in the parking lot for morning devotion up there because I have to go so early. But this works out good for me, and it gives everybody a chance to actually watch the video. So hopefully it's working out good for everybody. So now we're going to hear from Eliphaz, one of the three friends that have come to sit with Job. And he says Job has sinned, and this is a response to everybody who is struggling with something. Health issues, money issues. Well, you must have done something wrong. The Lord's mad at you and punishing you. That's always the excuse people go to. And as soon as they say that, I want to turn around and tell them, so, it doesn't look to me like your life's doing a whole lot better. Oh, everything's fine in my life. Really? Bet. So let's get into this. Let's see what happens here, because Eliphaz is going to just start saying some dumb things. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, If one attempts a word with you, will you become weary? But who can withhold himself from speaking? If I say something to you about this, if I tell you something, Job, are you going to be able to handle it? Or are you going to get mad? That's basically what he's saying. If I tell you something, will you get mad? But who can withhold himself from speaking? Surely you have instructed many, and you have strengthened weak hands. Your words have upheld him who was stumbling, and you have strengthened the feeble knees. Do you know all this? Do you hear the words he's using? These all come from New Testament. These also, well, they come from the Old Testament, but they're repeated in the New Testament. Very same wording. I forget where it's at in there, but evidently whoever that was talking is quoting here. Upheld him who was stumbling, strengthened weak hands, strengthened the feeble knees. Interesting. So he's singing his praises. Look at what you've done. But, verse 5, now it comes upon you, and you are weary. It touches you, and you are troubled. Is not your reverence your confidence? And the integrity of your ways your hope? Well, yeah, salvation, integrity is key. Remember now, whoever perished being innocent. Or where were the upright ever cut off? Even as I have seen those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. He's blaming Job for this. But if Job did something wrong, why was he singing his praises in the first couple of verses? What wrong did he do there? So his argument is wiped out with his first 7 verses. Verse 9, by the blast of God they perish, and by the breath of his anger they are consumed. That's funny because that's repeated also elsewhere in the Old Testament. The roaring of the lion, the voice of the fierce lion, and the teeth of the young lions are broken. Teeth of the lion are broken. I've heard that before too. The old lion perishes for lack of prey, and the cubs of the lioness are scattered. Now a word was secretly brought to me, and my ear received a whisper of it. So now he's got a word from the Lord. Verse 13, in disquieting thoughts from the visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on men, fear came upon me and trembling, which made all my bones shake. Told you, word of the Lord. I have a word from the Lord, a prophetic word. Then a spirit passed before my face. The hair on my body stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes. There was silence. Then I heard a voice saying, Can a mortal be more righteous than God? Can a man be more pure than his Maker? If he puts no trust in his servants, if he charges his angels with error, how much more those who dwell in houses of clay? That would be our bodies. Whose foundation is in the dust, who are crushed before a moth. They are broken in pieces from morning till evening. They perish forever, with no one regarding. Does not their own excellence go away? They die even without wisdom. That was Satan talking to him. That was Satan. Not only did he take his family and make him sick, but now he's going to influence his friends to come and torment him. Satan's pulling out all the stops with this one, and how amazing he fails. He fails, levels out everything, and just fails miserably. So he's going to blame this on a vision. I have a word from the Lord that all the good things you did you no good. You're a bad guy. There's something wrong with you, Job. Incredible. But after all the stuff that they're sitting there weeping with him over and mourning with him, they're going to sit there and they're going to say something like that. Well, Job, you must have messed up somewhere. But you just sat here in the first couple of verses. You just sat here and said, I did all these good things. What did I do wrong that would make this happen? Turns out he didn't do anything wrong. It's not about what he does or doesn't do. It's because Satan hates him and is trying to test him, to make him look bad and make God look bad, because Satan wants to take over. Satan's full of pride. He's blind. He can't see what he's doing. Now, Job doesn't know this, and Eliphaz doesn't know this either. We can see this from the outside looking in. But how interesting the interaction that's happening here with those other thoughts to bear. So he's going to sit here because of the influence of Satan in a dream, and he's going to start accusing Job. Interesting. Now he continues in chapter 5. So this is going to be a lot of this. I believe one of these guys, I think, has 4 chapters, I think, for his answer. I don't remember how many. Eliphaz, Job responds. Yeah, Eliphaz has 2. Yeah, Eliphaz has 2. It starts with him. And then it goes on Bildad after that. I think he's got 3. I have to go back. We'll get there. So it's Job's fault. Job, you messed up. It's your fault. No, it doesn't work that way. And I've had people do that to me. Well, maybe you're sick because you made a mistake. Why would God put on me what he puts on the unbeliever if I made a mistake, when he doesn't say that happens? It was funny because the last person that said that to me, a whole lot worse happened to him. And I never went to him and said, what did you do to make that happen? You bragging about your kids and how locked down and in control you have your family, and look what happens. Look what happens. Nothing we do wrong causes God to inflict us like that. It doesn't have anything to do with that. God chastises us not because we do something wrong, but to bring us closer into the truth. It's like taking a sharp stick and poking a goat in the butt to get it to move. Goats are stubborn. They won't do it. You either got to have a treat, but even then sometimes they won't do it, or you've got to have a prod to get them to move. We did do that with cattle. Use a little cattle prod, a little stick, got 2 prongs, shocks, pop, pop, pop. Doesn't hurt them. They're thick hide, they can't hardly feel it. But the noise scares them and causes them to move. Motivates them to move. That's what God's doing to us. He's motivating us to move. Correction doesn't come as an illness. Correction doesn't come as pain and suffering. If we get that, it's because of decisions we made. It's because of the consequences that come from the things that we decide to go do. It has nothing to do with him. He corrects us in much more effective ways. Specific ways. Personal ways. Ways that we'll understand. Because he loves us. He's not going to make us sick because he loves us. He might let us suffer the consequences of a decision. Consequently, he'll protect us from some of that too. How many people got sick over the last couple of years? Out of the blue. Yet me and my wife both. I know of 4 people I was exposed to specifically that had COVID. My wife was exposed to, as we can count, 15. active infections. Most likely more because she was working at a convenience store at that time. She was one of the designated helpers allowed to go and do that stuff instead of staying at home. And it has not touched my house. I'm not bragging, because it very easily could have. But there's 3 people in my house that would be very negatively affected by this. The Lord has protected us from this. I do stuff wrong every day. It's not the way it works. Yet this is what they're trying to do. Well, Job, you lost everything, and you're sitting here in a puddle of your own sweat, covered in sores. You must have done something wrong. No. That's the human response. We don't know why those things happen, except for consequences of our decisions, except for situations completely outside of our control. This is outside of Job's control. He has nothing to do with this or nothing to say about this. Completely outside of his control. This is something the Lord and Satan are doing. And what's funny is it's going to get even better, because God is proving a point to Satan, because Satan thinks that too. He thinks the way humans do. He's proving a point. Not only to Job, and Job finds this out at the end, but to Satan. My people are my people, and they will not leave no matter what happens to them. Because notice, God never inflicted any of this on Job. He just allowed Satan to do it. Remember what Jesus told Peter? Satan desires to sift you like wheat. That's a strong statement. And he was allowed to do so. Notice, no infliction of pain or suffering came from God or Jesus. Satan was allowed. And the Lord prepared him beforehand of it. See, there's things we don't understand that happen. There's things we don't grasp yet, details and certain interactions that are happening outside of our understanding, that may dictate some of the things that happen to us. This is where faith comes in. Well, Lord, like Job said, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away. Job 121. Benny Hinn is wrong. It's right there. The Lord gives, the Lord takes away. So I'm going to trust him regardless, no matter what happens in this life, because this life isn't the final destination. Heaven is. So if things go wrong, I'm going to, Lord, strengthen me to endure, that I may come out on the other side better, that I may come out on the other side more faithful, that I may glorify you through this whole thing. Prepare me for this journey. Not, Lord, why did you do this to me? Lord, what did I do wrong? I hear people say that all the time. Hey, nothing to do. We're blaming him for the wrong things. Blame him for the good stuff, because that's what he does. He's not the father of vindictiveness. He's not the father of punishment. He's a father of lights, a father of truth, a father of love, the inventor of love. He is love. So let us blame him for the things we should be blaming him for, not the other things. Eliphaz is making a huge mistake here. And he's going to get called out on it when we get near the end. Job didn't do anything wrong. Had nothing to do with that. We have an example in the New Testament. The blind guy, born blind from birth. And the apostles were like, who sinned, him or his parents? Jesus said, nobody sinned. This was done to him so that God could be glorified. This was allowed to happen to him so that the glory of God might be shown forth. Paul had a thorn in his flesh. What did Jesus say? My grace is sufficient. You'll be fine. There's things we don't understand that are happening. These things will have an end result of glorification. An end result of the glory being brought on the name of God. Jesus being elevated. And all of us being brought further into the truth. So don't ever think because your situation, you're in a bad situation or living in a bad situation, that it's because of you. You may have made decisions that instigated some of these results, but don't ever think it's God doing it to you, because it's not. He may allow things to happen, but he's not doing it. He's not that kind of God. Not the kind of God everybody makes him out to be. There's other things happening, things we don't know, things we don't understand. We have examples in the Bible showing us that. Job has no clue what's happening. Eliphaz has no clue what's happening. So before we immediately blame God for our problems, let's stop and think about it for a minute. Wait a minute. Now, God doesn't do stuff like this. So there's something else going on. Self-examination. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Lord, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what instigated this, but I pray you strengthen me through it. Same prayer Jesus made over the apostles. Father, I don't ask you to remove them. I ask you to strengthen them through it. Perfect. Examples in the Old Testament of stuff in the New Testament. Amazing. They confirm each other. Guys, that was Job 4. Tomorrow will be Job 5, and we're going to hear the rest of Eliphaz's speech and see what other nonsense he's got to share with Job. See you all in that video.